the Treaty Walk of 2024. The Treaty Walk on April 1st of 2024 has opened my eyes. I have learned and unlearned so many difficult truths of our past. It was a day to honor and remember the Indigenous peoples who lived in residential schools and had their lives destroyed, and in many cases lost altogether. It was a day to try and understand the sacred teachings of elders and knowledge keepers. My Muscasquin story starts with my ancestors. They immigrated to Canada from many parts of the world, including Pakistan, Germany, and England. I acknowledge my identity in relation to treaties as being a BIPOC Canadian settler who is working towards reconciliation on Treaty 4 territory. My treaty identity is connected to honoring and respecting the lands of the Treaty 4 territory that I live on by weaving Indigenous ways of knowing into my everyday life. I will take responsibility for language and culture, health, child welfare, and justice for Indigenous peoples of Canada through my career as a future teacher. Represented by my visual representations are the flags of my ancestors and the flags of my own identity. My other visual representation is of puzzle pieces that represent my ongoing knowledge of the Indigenous peoples of Canada. Some of these pieces are completely blank to show that I'm still on my journey toward reconciliation and treaty understanding. I understand the intent and spirit of treaties was a sacred undertaking for two parties, the Indigenous peoples of Canada and the European settlers. These treaties were signed with the Creator and are forever in place to represent the path of Canada that was paved for two different groups of people. Many tensions of the past bring strife to Indigenous children and elders. These tensions started because of broken promises of the European side. My grandfather and his ancestors were told that they could farm on stolen land in Treaty 4 territory. As Cardinal and Hildebrand state on page 22 of Treaty Elders in Saskatchewan, it is the view of elders that respect is an essential pillar upon which good relations can be brought about. It is important for me to begin my reconciliation journey as an individual living on Treaty 4 territory by disrupting normative narratives that my ancestors would have followed. The pipe and the sweetgrass represent the oneness of the nations who signed the treaties, and it represents the undertaking of a relationship governed by the Creator. The tensions of the harmful past of Indigenous peoples will continue, and it is important to acknowledge these tensions to be able to relearn and unlearn the mistakes of our ancestors. The landscape puzzle pieces of Buffalo Pound Provincial Park, a place that was once roaming with buffalo, named after a hunting technique that Indigenous peoples once used to hunt the vast buffalo in our area. I will live these treaty understandings in educational contexts by continuing to learn the tensions of the Indigenous people and European settlers in our country, and I will teach about them as well. My education on the Indigenous peoples has only just begun. As a future educator, I will commit to understanding and listening about the hard truths of our divided country. I will not be a bystander to my future Indigenous students. I will continue to embed Mi'kmaq, getting along well with others, and good relations, Tapwewin, speaking the truth, Wetaskiwin, living together on the land, Miskasawin, finding oneself, and Kichiasatomatowin, sacred promises to guide myself through my journey towards reconciliation. It is my treaty responsibility to learn and speak the truth.